I'm Sam from Cultaholic, and this is Graded for Friday Night SmackDown, where I take a look at the show segment by segment and award each little bit of grade from A+ to F. Now, how good does it feel to be back in a bloody studio? Don't know what I did with the PNG of my original desk. I had a computer malfunction, so I'm back with a really old one from some old video we did where I replaced Jack for a week. But yeah. Now, I'm not going to get into it too much here, but this week's SmackDown was chock-a-block. It was absolutely rammed. There were 15 individual images that I think I had to get, so that's about 14, 15 different segments. But yeah, if you're looking for a high-action wrestling week, this ain't the week for you. This is all story towards SummerSlam, so without any further ado, let's crack on with it. Hit the intro. Well, there's a dry open this week recapping the attacks by Retribution. It's stated by commentary that there is security on the doors tonight, and so there is going to be no trouble. No trouble at all. And then we go straight into our first match this evening, which is Biggie versus John Morrison. So the guys get in the ring, they're squaring up, and then the lights immediately flicker and Retribution surround the ring. Jesus Christ, why go to all that effort in the intro of being like, oh, there's security, if this is going to happen straight away? So Cole and Corey bugger off for a jog as Biggie and Morrison get beaten down. When they clear out, Miz comes running down to check on Morrison, see if he's okay. We go to a break, and then when we come back, everybody's backstage. Biggie's there, John Morrison's there, there's a whole bunch of the SmackDown roster, and they're all having a bit of a bicker, and Miz is like, look, this is all Biggie's fault. Corbin then comes in, tries to get a jab at Biggie. Biggie's like, no, just pack it in. This match is going to happen tonight. I'll go sort it. We're not going to be interrupted. And then finally, when it looks like it's all wrapped up, Sheamus pops in, sort of runs Biggie down a little bit, but he stands his ground. And that was the segment. Now, it might be a little bit harsh here, but I'm going to give this opening a C-, because honestly, at this point, I just want to know what's going on. I want some clarity on this whole situation. And right now, the way I'm thinking, it can only go one of two ways. So because this is being lambasted all over the internet and everybody's like, this sucks, it's awful, it could be something as dramatic as like, I don't know, like a CM Punk return. That would work really well because everybody would immediately shut up and be like, all right. But then there's the feeling that this is just sort of a thinly veiled jab at us as the audience. Like maybe Vince is just going to come out, reveal the leader of Retribution, and it's actually just this 10-foot square mirror with you written in blood on it, because we are Retribution, aren't we? We just turn up every week. As they're trying to do a show, we just trash it. We slag them off. We, as a fan base, are Retribution. Maybe this is where it's going. But anyway, after that, we go down to Banks and Bayley, who are in the ring. So they say they're here to introduce the Battle Royal. We know that Sasha is going to have to face Asuka at SummerSlam, but tonight is all about finding out who Bayley's opponent's going to be. They're both adamant they want to do the ring announcing, particularly Bayley. She's awfully talented at it, and I'll just read down the sort of order as people come out. So we have, at first, the Iconics come out, and then we have Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart. Then we have Lacey, and then finally from Raw, not from SmackDown, Asuka. There's obviously a lot more people involved with the match. They all come running down, but in terms of the match, it's a battle royal. There's not really a lot happens. It's just over the top, over the top, over the top. So I'll run down the order of eliminations, which goes Ruby Riott, the Iconics, one after the other, Liv Morgan, Nikki Cross, Tamina, Naomi, Lacey, Shotzi, Belair, Nox, Dana, Shani B, leaving Asuka as the winner, meaning that Asuka has to challenge for 2 titles at SummerSlam. Surprisingly, for a Battle Royal, this was alright, you know, it wasn't too long, it wasn't too convoluted, it didn't overstay its welcome, but it equally wasn't terribly short. I'll give it a B-. It was pretty fun, and it ramped up a bit dramatically toward the end. There was, in particular, this whole bit with, like, Asuka jumps out onto the apron, Banks and Bayley are trying to interfere, and they're trying to pull her off, and she's having to dramatically hang on as Shayna's coming for it, and then there's like this whole bit with Shayna choking over the... it was just great. It was so good. After this, real quick, we go backstage, and Banks and Bayley are really annoyed about Asuka winning, but Bayley's like, you know what, I think I can come to terms with it, and then boom! Boom, 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 boom. Asuka just attacks them from behind, and then an agent jumps in and is like, whoa, come on, calm it down, and Asuka's just screaming. And then we go to Mandy Rose backstage, and Mandy is addressing Sonya. She says, you know, I've had it all my life. All the things you've been saying to me, you know, like, oh, you're just a pretty face, or you're a Barbie doll, things just get handed to you. She says that it hurts to hear those things to this day. Yes, sure, she won a Bikini World Championship, but she did so while she was working 3 jobs and putting herself through college. Don't tell her that she doesn't work hard. She says she wants Sonya at SummerSlam, and she wants it hair versus hair. This Oh my God, put it on last. You don't have the balls, but put that on last. How are they going to do this? Somebody's getting shaven, and it's just going to be like, this story's been going on for so long now, and the fact that it's still going on, it's still engaging as hell, and after this, it's still going to be engaging because somebody's going to be bald. Now, I don't usually grade the smaller backstage segments, but this one gets a splendiferous A. Mandy's delivery here was fantastic. We saw a more serious side to her, and this match, oh my God, I'm so hyped for it. And we keep it backstage again as we go to Nikki Cross, who's looking all anxious, and she's like waiting, and then a door opens and she goes rushing over, and it's Alexa Bliss. She's hugging her and she's apologizing, she's saying she's sorry, and Alexa's just like awkwardly looking at her and sort of smiling, but like, So yeah, Nikki apologizes to her. She's like, look, I think Bray and Braun are going to be here tonight. We need to get you somewhere safe. And Alexa's like, no, I'm not interested in going anywhere. I need to stay here. I want answers from Braun. And next, it's finally time for another match. We go down to the ring for Sheamus versus Shorty G. So Sheamus just explodes straight onto him. Elbows, he's beating the drum, he's wailing on him, but all it takes is one tiny window and Shorty G is straight in there working over the leg. He gets a little bit of offense in, but Sheamus obviously has a much bigger size to him. He's got a much bigger power advantage over him. So yeah, there's like a nice little game of technicality versus brute force going on. This is my favorite, or at least one of my favorite dynamics of matches. And there is a nice ankle lock sequence from Shorty G, but unfortunately it's followed up by a white noise, and then very quickly a brogue kick for a quick Sheamus victory. Now I'm going to give this one a C. It was not so much of a squash, even though it was kind of a squash. It was more Sheamus regaining his momentum. But then when you look at it, it's really, really odd because we're in a heel versus heel situation. Like, Shorty G was undoubtedly the babyface here because he was getting mercilessly beaten down by Sheamus, but at the same time he's aligned with Corbin. So it never really works when you just jam two random stories together with heel. I don't know what's going to happen here. And then before we go to the next segment, we see a shot of AJ Styles backstage in an office with Abyss. With Joseph Parks just sat there in a suit looking all... And then when we come back from the break, we're straight down to the ring for AJ Styles' statistical presentation. So AJ comes down, he's got Joseph Parks or Chris Parks or Abyss, whatever you want to call him. He's got him with him and he's like acting as his statistician. So they have a whiteboard and AJ says that he's here to work out who the next deserving challenger is because people are moaning, you know, you're not a fighting champion, all this stuff. And he's like, look, I have defended this belt, you know, I just want to enjoy my time with it. Don't make me have to give it up so quickly. He plugs his Twitch and then goes off on one about the comment section there, always bringing up statistics. Well, statistically, it's got to be this guy you face, or statistically, you've got to give a shot to him. And he's like, look, statistically, you know nothing. Now, I want to make sure I get this right because my brain is terrible, but he says that he's hired a team to implement the Phenomenal Intercontinental Statistics System, PISS. He reveals that number one on the whiteboard is, of course, AJ Styles. He is the current Intercontinental Champion, so it makes sense for him to be in the top position. And then he's like, well, who's number two? And there's this big dramatic build-up, and he peels it away, and there's nothing there. 2 through infinity is nobody. Nobody is deserving of a shot because he's already beaten people that have already beaten people that have already beaten people. So what's the point of even trying? But then to piss in his cornflakes, out comes Jeff Hardy. And Jeff's like, you know what, AJ, I respect you. We've been through a lot together. We've worked together like a lot in the past. And I think like we're on a really similar level. He says while he respects AJ, that title means a lot to him though. It was his first ever singles title, and so he feels maybe he should just be allowed a shot at that new shiny design one. AJ then surprisingly tells Jeff, you know what, like I'm really proud of you and like everything you've been through and I respect you a lot, but this ain't no pity party. And literally as the Y rolls out of his mouth, Jeff just smacks him in the face. So yeah, Jeff throws him out the ring, Joseph Parks goes flying, and then he signs his own name on the board, massive letters, Jeff Hardy. That match looks like it's going ahead. Now, I don't know if I'm just overthinking this a little bit, drinking too much coffee and not getting enough sleep, but I can't help but feel that all of this talk of statistics is a thinly veiled jibe at AEW's hard-on for like maths and facts. But either way, I'm going to give this a C+. It was an alright little promo, AJ's delivery was great, but we had Joseph Parks. That was lovely to see him finally get some screen time at WWE. I don't know if he's retired or something, but it's really selfish of me to ask this because I know he's in a backstage role already, but I want to see more of him. I really want to see more of him. He's a very entertaining man. We've got a quick one backstage here as Cesaro and Nakamura are going back and forth. Cesaro's like, you know what, you'll be fine against Gran Metalik tonight. You're going to be all right. And they have a little bit of a chat because they're buddies, you know, and they're just having some locker room talk. And yeah, but while they're doing this, Lucha House Party totally sneak in behind, steal the titles. And if it wasn't for one of them accidentally making a clinking noise, then they would have escaped without being caught. But instead, they get caught and they sprint off, and they actually head to the ring next, holding the belts. But before we go to that match, we have AJ Styles backstage, and he's stopped and he's asked about the Jeff situation. He says, you know what, if Jeff really wants the match that bad, then I'm more than happy to oblige, but I will erase him, because obviously he's on the board. He gets his hand in his jacket and he's gonna wipe it off, but Jeff had signed it, of course, in permanent marker. And this is what I love about Joseph Park. There's just like this really little line here that he probably improvised. He just says sorry, but he says it in such a mewling way, like he's groveling to AJ, like AJ's been giving him crap for like weeks. But yes, now we go to Shinsuke Nakamura versus Gran Metalik with Lince Dorado and Cesaro on the outside. So Nakamura is straight out of the blocks with control, but Metalik is able to bring the pace and put that little bit of distance between them. Nakamura goes for an exploder, Metalik is able to flip himself out of it, and he capitalizes here, and it looks like he's going to come off the ropes and do real well for himself, but then Cesaro distracts him. And then fairly quickly after that, Nakamura lines up for the Kinshasa, because obviously Gran Metalik's taking a bit of a knock coming off that turnbuckle, and as he's lining up, we just hear Lucha, 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 and then out comes Kalisto. He's back, and he's hench. Jesus. Lince and Kalisto then take care of Cesaro on the outside, and in all of the confusion, Metalik is able to hit his massive elbow and pick up the win. I think I'm going to give this one a C+. It was far from an all-time classic, but you know what? It was pretty entertaining for a match of its length. Kalisto returning here was quite nice, and I'm hoping that this featured time for Lucha House Party continues, because I know that everybody rolls their eyes, and I know everybody's like, they're so boring, but they're not. That's the thing, is they've been booked into this corner, and we've all just sort of forgotten that they can go. So if that can continue, and we can get some really nice matches out of it, for once people take them seriously, I'd quite like that. We then go backstage, and Matt Riddle is being asked about the current situation with everything that's happening with him and Corbin. And Riddle's like, you know what, speaking to everybody, Corbin appears to just be a pain. That just is what he is. And then as he's talking about this, up comes Shorty G, and he's like, look, Matt, I just want to apologize, you know, that money's like a lot. I acted badly there, and it would have meant a lot to me and my family, so I'm sorry, man. And Riddle's like, distracted by this, and he's about to like sort of reciprocate and maybe say, oh, that's cool, man, don't worry about it, before he's attacked from behind by King Corbin. You horrible little short man. I hope you're proud of yourself, making a distraction, allowing a man to get beaten down from behind. I should also point out, you know, that the bit at the opening when it all went mental and they're all backstage arguing, there was a great bit there where Baron Corbin just says, he's like, yeah, you know what, it's like me and Shorty G. I used to beat his ass every week. And Shorty G's like, oh, he mentioned me. And he's like, proper nerd. It was Angle-esque. It was quite nice. But now it's time for the all-important sit-down interview with Alexa Bliss regarding the situation with Braun Strowman. She says that she's not been feeling too great recently. She felt like her and Braun were really close, like almost best friends. And when she's asked, she's like, you know what, maybe there were some feelings there. Maybe this is, you know, why I was targeted. When she's asked about being in proximity to The Fiend, though, this is where it gets interesting, because she says that he's like horrifying but compelling. Like, the only way she knows how to really sum it up is like a moth being drawn to a flame. And then finally, she's asked about Braun Strowman's comments when he said he didn't give a damn about Alexa last week. And she pauses, she seems to get really upset, and she looks to the side and stifles her emotions, and that is the end of the interview. Now this one gets an A. It was really uncomfortably close, it was really well done by Alexa, and it sort of gently canon confirms. I don't know if we'd had that. We'd had like mentionings, oh well, it changes you. Like The Miz had sort of solved that a little bit when The Fiend came in. Like every time he interacts with somebody, it affects them. But now Alexa's pretty much confirmed it. But if that's so, to what extent does The Fiend change you? Could she align with him? Is it going to change your entire personality? Or is it, as we thought, it rolls you back to like an older gimmick or an older period in time where you were maybe more of a heel or more of a face? Either way, it was fantastic. And next up, we go to Sonya Deville, and she's here to answer Mandy's challenge, and she quite bluntly accepts. And now the final match of the night, which is the redo of match number 1. We have Biggie versus John Morrison. And yeah, let's just hope that nothing happens here, even though it's definitely gonna happen. So earlier in the night, it's worth noting, when Retribution attacked, they chop blocked Biggie's knee. It looked like it got jarred and he was clutching it and stuff, and now it's taped up. So Morrison, as soon as the bell goes, he's straight in after that knee. Biggie, though, of course, the much bigger man here power-wise, he's able to power himself up, get some distance there, and send Morrison just flying to the outside. There's a lovely splash across the apron before Miz, oh yeah, I should have probably said Miz is at commentary, he came down to just accompany Morrison to the ring as he does. But yeah, Miz distracts Biggie, and this allows Morrison again from behind to come and target that knee. Miz has been making derogatory comments about Mandy and the whole Mandy and Sonya situation, and then out of nowhere, Otis turns up and he's just like, I just want to have a word with you, man. I just want to have a word with you. And Miz is like, I just want to have a word with you. And then the lights start flickering. When we come back from the break, a chunk of the SmackDown roster have been summoned. They've been brought down to protect the ringside area. So I guess if Retribution tried to get in, then they're not going to you're not going to be able to, do as much damage as they would, because you've got a load of burly people there who know how to do the fights and stuff. The match continues for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, instead of them attacking the ring area because all of the talent have come down, they've decided to attack the unprotected backstage area. They're in there just beating people down, trashing it, spray painting WWE logos and crossing them out, just destroying the place. The match continues a little more, then Jessica Carr, the referee, she comes sprinting from the back and she's like, guys, come on, you've got to help. By the time they get back there, well, the match is still ongoing as well. Like, they stay in the ring and keep going. But by the time they get back there, they've all gone. And so everybody stood around like, oh no, how could we let this happen? Eventually, the end of the match comes with a Biggie victory via stretch muffler. But then Sheamus attacks him post-bell. I'm going to give this one a C. Again, I do like the mid-match breakdowns. I enjoy this sort of thing. It's just that we've had the same thing now for a couple of weeks, and it just seems to be a bit of a cluster, and it's different people every time, and it doesn't feel like we've actually got anything going anywhere. But then again, that's probably how they want us to feel. They probably want us to get sick of it. They probably want to turn this into WWE versus Invading Force. But then who are they? What's it going to be? It's this whole circle of like, this is cool, but I just want to know where it's going now. And the other thing to note here is that the match is made, whenever there is an interruption in a match like this, it's made to feel insignificant, like the match itself, because it's not the center of focus. You've got a match going on, which you see, several times over the course of the show, or you've got this crazy thing happening and everybody's more interested in that. And then when you use a Big E match during Big E's big singles run, and Big E's like gonna go out and, prove what he can do again, like, it makes that feel insignificant. But then finally we go to tonight's main event slot, which is Braun Strowman delivering an in-ring promo. So Braun comes down, he is full of rage, he's had his head bicked right down, so he's super bored. Looks a bit like Action Bronson, but mega hench. So he's like, brave fiend, I don't care, just come down here right now, I don't give a crap, come out now. And instead of Bray's music hitting, it's Alexa Bliss's. So she says to him, look, Braun, you're not the same person that you were. You're not you at the minute, and I don't know what's happening. I know that you wouldn't say things like that, so what's changed? And Braun's like, look, everything that comes into contact with the Fiend changes. Evidently, Braun is essentially talking about himself here, but he doesn't realize it because he turns it back on Alexa and he's like, you have changed. He tells her to leave and she's like, be careful what you wish for. And then she's like, no, in fact, look at me. And because he's been just staring at the hard cam the entire time, hasn't even looked at her. But he looks at her and she just slaps him and she's asking him, like, why? Come on, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And then rather than snapping out of it, rather than anything, I think he starts to giggle a bit and then he lifts her up into a military press position, or just a press position. He's just straight up, he's just got her right above his head and he's holding her. And he walks from side to side of the ring. So like left, down, right, up, like all sides of the ring. And as he does it, the lights, one by one, all start to go out. The Fiend is on his way. So with all the lights out, they come back up and it's red and Braun is gone. In his place is the Fiend, and all we hear is that maniacal laughter, that horrible laughter you get from the Fiend, except this time it's not from the Fiend. It cuts to the wide and Braun has teleported into the Tron, basically. Braun is in there and he's cackling and he's lit all like dramatically, and the Fiend's like looking at him, and then the Fiend starts laughing along with him, and it's just, whoa. This one gets an A, how could it not? Braun has come such a long way. Jesus, he's nowhere near that one-dimensional 80s character we saw him as so long ago. Sure, he still shouts like he's in there with Macho Man in promos and stuff. Sure, he still goes on like that, but we're seeing this level of depth that we've never really seen before with him. It feels like he's almost in this weird symbiotic relationship with the Fiend, and then if he is, how does that bode for Alexa? If he's not, is Alexa in a sort of weird symbiotic relationship with the Fiend? Is Braun the Fiend's dancing puppet? When they were laughing together, what does that suggest? But in terms of an overall grade for SmackDown this week, I think I'm going to give it a B-. As I said, it was much more of a story-driven week this week, but we did have some goodness in the way of, you know, Braun and Alexa, that whole situation. We have Mandy Sonya with hair versus hair. Yes, we had to put up with Retribution for a little bit. Oh, and we even got Bayley Sterling ring announcing. She could do with taking some lessons from Scott Steiner, though, if I'm being honest. And that was graded for Friday Night SmackDown. I've been Sam from Cultaholic. As always, stay safe. I'll see you soon.